You're scared to admit that it's fully over. You're scared to admit that what you went through with this person is really truthfully over, that they're not going to come back. Because even after it was all over, you still tried. You still tried and begged and grasped at anything to get their attention to be pointed towards you so that you can tell them, I still want to be with you. Yet they've already made their decision. They already decided that they were leaving. They already decided that this was over and that no amount of begging or no amount of what you do is going to convince me otherwise. Yet you were still trying. And let's say a month goes by, 2 months go by, a year goes by, and yet you're still here. And you still have them in your mind. You still have the whole thing that you guys have been through in your mind. And you wonder why. Maybe you're just scared to admit that it's finally over. And maybe now it's time to admit to yourself that it is finally over, that what you went through with this person is finally over, and to stop dragging that hope longer than it needs to be dragged out for. It hurts because this is something people don't want to hear. People want to hear that it's going to be okay and that it's all going to be okay and that they're going to come back, but sometimes you have to come to terms with the fact that the last step that you have to do in your healing, or the last step that you just have to do in general in terms of a breakup, is to accept that it's over, to accept that there is nothing there anymore. And that doesn't change how you feel. Sometimes you might just still feel love for them. Sometimes you still might miss that relationship, or miss the feeling of being in a relationship. But that doesn't mean get into something else. That doesn't mean jump into another relationship. You just miss that feeling that you had with that person, that connection. That doesn't mean you're going backwards, and that doesn't mean you want them. It's just something that your body still is trying to heal and go through. You just have to come to terms with the fact that it's over, that it's all said and done, that the story that you two have written is over. And however it may have ended, whether it was a good way or a bad way or a cliffhanger or with a bunch of more questions rather than answers, you have to come to terms with the fact that that's how the story was written. That's how it was written. And maybe it's been a month after this breakup that you guys have endured, or maybe 2 months, and yet you're still trying to say if you can maybe fight your way, because we've heard it over time and time again. Fight for the love that you want, fight for that person, fight. But if that person isn't going to pay attention to you, if that person isn't going to want your saving, why do you still lend a hand out? Why do you still lend a hand out to them if you know deep down they're not going to take it? If you know deep down they're not going to even look in your direction because they're looking at someone else, they're looking at a totally different direction. They aren't there. And so the final thing you have to do is pull your hand back and say, no, I can't lend my hand out to you anymore. I have to come to terms with the fact that we're going in different directions. We're not going in the same direction. And I have to say for myself that this is over. This is over. It's hard when you get to that last step. It's hard when you want to finally say it's over, because at one point you couldn't say it. It happens. It happened to me. I couldn't say it for, I would say, the first 6 to 8 months of the breakup. I could not say that it is over. I was still laying awake at night, still thinking about what if, because that was always in my head. It was always in my head, what if. But my mind never really got to turning into it's over. Admit it. And it wasn't until I think 4 months ago where I finally started to come to terms with the fact that it is over. It's over. And to start pointing all of my thoughts, all of my feelings towards myself. Because it's something true. When you think about someone so much, when you think about something for so long, you lose yourself even after the breakup happened, Because let's say, for example, during the relationship, you spent all your time on them, on them, on them. And even when the breakup happened, let's say 3, 6 months after the breakup happened, you're still thinking about them, that you haven't put much thought into yourself. You haven't put much thought into taking care of yourself. And it hurts because you still want them. But the real thing is, you need to just admit to yourself, I'm done. It's over. And however the story was written, that's how it was written. And it's hard because sometimes you're left with more questions rather than answers. Sometimes you're left asking yourself, why did they leave? Why did they choose that person? Why do they regret it? Do they still think about me late at night? Do they still wonder about me? Or am I just not something that crosses their mind? Am I something that just isn't there? And we don't even get the answers to that. You don't. You don't get the answers. Because even though as much as you want it, they won't send you a message giving you it all. And it hurts. Because that would help, but it also would hurt you. It would give you a little bit of closure to know what truly happened, what truly they thought, but you won't get it. Instead, you have to figure out your own story, your own ending. You have to kind of come up with the ending for yourself to be like, this is what the answer is for those questions. And this is what I think it is. I don't need it from them anymore. I don't need that answer from them anymore because I know now that it is over on my terms. And I can truly say it is over. For some of us, we are still holding on, still waiting on the day that they come back. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying you need to move on now, but I'm saying that eventually, when the time comes, you will know when it comes because you'll have that feeling where you have to just say for yourself, I have to say it's over. I remember on New Year's Day when I finally let go of this relationship, truly let go of it as much as I could. I just remember driving back home from the New Year's Eve party that my parents invited me to and just tears running down my face. And I was crying, yet I was also very happy. I was very happy because I just kept saying over and over and over again, I did it. I did it. I did it. It's finally over. I did it. I went through this entire year from originally thinking at the very beginning of the year, I want them, I still want them, I still want them, to now at the end of the year where I could say, I don't want you anymore. I don't care what you do. I still care about you because you're a person, a big part of my life. But I've come to terms with that. It's over. I've come to terms that I can now truthfully say it's over. And I'm okay with that. I'm truly okay with that. But it's that moment where you feel it for yourself, where you're it feels like a weight does get off your chest, off your shoulders, off your heart, where you can truly look back at everything that you've went through, the breakup, the relationship, the hurt. And even though it's hard to close that door on that chapter of life, you can look back at that entire chapter and you can say for yourself, this is where the story ends. And I think every part of it, from the good to the bad, but I can now truthfully say, with every part of my body and with every part of my heart, that it is over.